Now, what exactly is going on today?
This is the Sun City Stamp Collectors Club, and we're hosting the Lee Scott Memorial Stamp Club exhibition. Lee Scott was a member of ours who passed away about 4 years ago, and he organized the first stamp exhibition we had. This is where we have a regular stamp club meeting and an auction every third Tuesday of every month, but this is a little different. This is where the stamp club members can come and showcase their stamps and their exhibitions, and it's to showcase the many different aspects of stamp collecting and what people are interested in. A lot of people are interested in different facets of collecting, and it's to show the general public that there's more to stamp collecting than just sticking a stamp in an album. So.
Now, David, what have you got here?
I have postcards. They started in 1869, and they cover the whole world. Any subject you can think of is covered. There's a postcard on it. It is fascinating.
Well, Frank, my buddy, what do we got here?
We have an exhibit of, from year one, all the chest stamps from the countries of the world, decorated either a single stamp all the way up to some of them where I was able to obtain full sheets of those stamps. And then I make bookmarkers out of them or put them in frames like this. And
Now, Mark, you make these. Who do you make these for?
scholastic players. First of all, at the top, it says chess is worldly. But the important message for scholastic players is at the bottom. It says read to succeed.
This is my collection of the Confederation issue of Canada from 1927. It was issued on June 29th. My birthday is June 29th, so I got interested in this.
Oh, Alan, you have so many shiny coins. Tell me about them.
Thank you. Well, we have a collection that spans all 45 presidents, all 49 vice presidents, and all 50 states and 5 territories. It includes coins for the states, coins for the presidents, and medallions for the vice presidents.
Now, Larry, what do you have here?
What I have is the way I'm collecting stamps now is through stories. So in other words, what I'm interested in is not so much in pasting the stamps into the album, but the stories behind the stamps. Now, unfortunately, every stamp has got a very interesting story. So what I've done is, over the years, I've selected some of the more interesting stories. And the way I got started with this was that as a kid, I was collecting stamps, putting them in albums, and then I came across the book here, which was called Stamps and Stories from the post office. And the stamp that interested me at the time was a stamp called the Four Chaplains. But in general, what the stamp was about was these 4 chaplains that were in the same vessel that was torpedoed off of the North Atlantic. And they had 2 Protestant chaplains, a Jewish rabbi, and a Christian priest. And they gave up their life vests at the time. And I was so intrigued by the story that that's what really made me into a historical stamp collector and trying to do it.
Harry, this is a beautiful book. What exactly do you have?
Okay, Chris. I bought this book and all the stamps that went into it back in the middle of May of 1986. I was in Chicago on a business trip, and I bought the album and all the stamps that would go into the album at the time, but I never assembled anything. I put it away, and because I was collecting in 1986, I put it away, and it didn't come back out again until Ron Alphin decided that there was going to be this little stamp presentation. So at that point, I said to myself, well, let me get my grandson involved, because that's when I started collecting, when I was 12 years old and in the 6th grade, and that's what he is. So
And that's your grandson.
That's my grandson. So I did get him interested in it. I showed him the album. None of these were mounted. They were all in piles of 9, and I showed him how to put the mounts on the corners of the envelopes, and also to mount a single of each stamp, which I also collected at that Amerpex show in Chicago up by O'Hare Airport. And he started to take to it, and he would read all these things. He says, Poppy, he says, when the show is complete, he says, can I bring the album in to show and tell to my 6th grade history class? I said, absolutely. I said, I'm not going to do anything with it, and I think if you're interested, Poppy's got a lot of other albums that you might find interesting as well, and I'll give you some stamps and I'll help you collect.
Now, David, what do you have here?
I have censorship mail in the United States that also was received from all over the world. And the first two here are from my uncle in the war, where I asked them for stamps, and I was only about 6 years old.
So you've been interested in this for a while.
Yes, and he said, when I get to Manila, I'll check. And he did. He did find me stamps to mail.
Oh, that was so sweet. Well, thank you, David.
Right, and here are some foreign ones from other countries, Argentina, Australia, Austria,
Pretty much all over the world. That's very impressive.
even from Germany one, which I knew these people and they had lost these people in the war. They couldn't get out. And I also have if you see, that's the German. All the U.S. have along here.
Now, Bob, what have we got here today?
Well, this is a Civil War collection. It is 100 commemorative envelopes and stamps. Some of them have to do with battles, some of them have to do with events, and a lot of them have to do with people. Most of the events that are in this particular collection, it's a complete collection, it's all of the Civil War stamps that were ever issued. Virginia has the most action because that's where most of the fighting took place. I went to a college in one of these towns, which I will share later, but that's why I have a sincere interest in what was in this collection. So I've been doing this for probably about 15, 20 years, just this particular collection. And it's been very enjoyable and I like history.
So, Ron, what have you got here?
I got a collection from a friend of mine, from his father, who died recently. He was a very advanced collector, and in his collecting, he had certain things he wanted that he couldn't get, so he made them. All these stamps are handmade by him or somebody he knew. None of these stamps are real, and as a collection, I've already been offered $250 for it, and it's just junk. It's all it is, junk put together in a nice way.
How long have you been collecting?
I've been collecting since I'm 12. I sold my first stamp album at 12 years old.
Roger, this is beautiful. They look very old. What exactly am I looking at?
Well, I'm here to display history through the eyes of a postage stamp, and I like collecting commemorative stamps because a commemorative stamp, each stamp has a story behind it. And rather than just stick a stamp on an envelope, if you take time to study what that stamp is about, you can learn interesting parts about history that you may not have known before. And I probably started collecting when I was 10 years old. And when I was a kid, I would take some of these postage stamps to school with me, and we would be doing social studies and U.S. history. And the teacher was talking about the Lewis and Clark exhibition and the Gadsden Purchase and the Louisiana Purchase.
You had the stamp to match.
I had the stamps to show that, so that was a lot of fun. And there's a lot of stories in U.S. stamps, and there's also a lot of stories in foreign stamps. And I'm going to contrast some of the different stories between the foreign stamps and the U.S. stamps. And also first day covers. First day covers have an interesting story.
What's first day covers?
First day cover is another name for an envelope. And the first day cover is the first day that stamp was issued. It gets stamped by the post office as
Yeah, we've all seen them canceled, right?
it's canceled with the first day of issue. So you can tell. And the first day of issue is usually canceled in a city related to that stamp issuance. So like here's Juliet Gordon Lowe was the founder of the Girl Scouts, and she was headquartered in Savannah. So you see this postmark in Savannah, Georgia, and there's a museum for the Girl Scouts down in Savannah, Georgia.
This really is history.
That's right. So you can learn a lot from an individual stamp.
So, Nick, this looks very, very interesting. What exactly are we looking at?
Well, I collect U.S. used stamps, and the first postage stamp ever manufactured was Great Britain, which is the penny black in 1840. A few years later, the U.S. produced the first U.S. postage stamp in 1847. By 1860, there was over 60 countries that were issuing postage stamps. Before that, they were called provisionals, and they were just postmasters would just say, "Okay, paid." There was no stamps. The most expensive stamp, U.S. stamp, was the inverted Jenny, which is worth $1.3 million. That's the
I'll
most
take that when I leave.
Oh, I don't have one. But this is a new, number one U.S. stamp, produced in 1847. And I sent it out to a philatelic society to have it expertized. I wanted something official that said it was genuine. And then the Graf Zeppelins were airmail stamps that were basically produced for 1 month. They made 1 million of them. It was during the Depression. They only sold 200,000, and they burned the rest. So they're very expensive stamps. But like I said, I collect only used stamps. I want postally used stuff.
I'm amazed at how much the value of stamps. I mean, I really had no idea till I came here today.
Yep. A lot of people collect stamps, and just like this cover, I mean, that's 160 years old. That envelope. And it was sent to a gentleman in Massachusetts, and that's all it has. It has the town, his name, the town, and Massachusetts, and they got to him.